Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. So before we get started, I just want to make a quick announcement for people that are interested in getting the teas from me. I am doing an elderberry, reishi, chaga tea to help build the immune system. If you would like to order it, I'm not going to be shipping until Monday. But I am taking orders. So if you sent me an email, I will get to the emails and ship everything out on Monday. People had also asked about the price. I think it's $20 per 3.5 ounce bag. And with shipping and handling, I think it comes to $30.80. All right, got that out of the way. All right, so the first... Did I also tell you where to send me the email? Whimsyanderson@gmail.com. Sorry about that. The information is below if you need to order some tea. I will be talking about other types of teas I make in the future. I just don't want to focus on that just yet. So the last remote we did was kind of interesting in the sense that when I went into the meditation and tried to put myself in the shoes of Kim Jong Un, it was weird. The first image or vision I had of Kim Jong Un was it was almost like he was trying to flee North Korea. There was this fear that he had to get out of North Korea because he was afraid that there were certain elements, or he had found out there were certain elements in North Korea that wanted to create a coup, or were talking about theoretically taking over his government. It looks like he's having some challenges with some of his generals. There are generals that are working with South Korea, which is an ally of the United States, and then there are generals that are secretly working very much with the Chinese. I know the Chinese have sent a medical team to North Korea to look at the fate of Kim Jong Un. It looked like organ failure was already setting in. The type of advanced organ failure that I felt this individual had, the swelling, the cyanosis, the fact that they might have introduced kidney dialysis at one point, leads me to believe that this individual was dying, or was possibly even as far gone as brain dead. What can sometimes happen when a person has kidney failure, liver failure, organ failure, is that we start to see changes in blood gases, and we also see a rise in ammonia in the blood because the filtering of the kidneys and the ability of the liver to get rid of excess uric acid breaks down. And so what you'll also see is brain damage start to happen as a result of those changes. But this looked like somebody who was either in very deep coma or was being kept alive with a ventilator and was still undergoing dialysis. I think that this person is probably has passed, or is, once they remove the machines, he's probably passed. I'm sorry to say it, but that's how it looks. It looked like diabetes, kidney disease, heart and circulatory distress, severe edema, and blue with cyanosis. And that was documented from a remote the night of April 20th. And then we shot it on April 20th, which leads me to think that he was pretty ill before he passed a few days ago. The second remote we did was on Trump and how Trump would be dealing with the escalating criticism of his administration with COVID. And it looks like he is seriously contemplating in the coming days resigning early as his numbers drop and moving to Florida. There's this desire to take his chances in Florida. And he's hoping that by staying in Florida, he says he's done a lot of favors for the people of Florida. He's hoping that he will not be forced to face future legal problems in New York, that he'll just be allowed to stay in Florida. In plain words, he was able to delay prosecution for so long that once he's a senior, retired, hiding out in Florida, avoiding charges in New York, he may be able to just stay there and avoid it. But he may face financial hardship when people attempt to take back the money they feel that was stolen from them. So we could see a lot of lawsuits. We could see the state of New York and other states that have Trump businesses possibly liquidating and selling things off in order to pay people who claim to be victims. But he's seriously thinking of taking his chances in Florida. That's basically what it looks like. All right, and the last meditation I did last night had to do with the future shutdown and how it was having a global impact. This was interesting to me because this looked like the G20 and the future meetings of the G20, the wealthiest 20 countries in the world, nations in the world coming together to deal with COVID. And it looks like one of the main concerns by financial experts is that if we continue to shut down the markets beyond what we've already done, we could start seeing hunger and famine in some areas of the world that cannot properly feed themselves, that are relying on foreign aid to feed themselves. Certainly North Korea cannot feed its citizens. It's dependent on China for some food to feed its citizens. But there are also other countries that are extremely poor that are depending upon international aid. So the consequences of this for the poorest of the poor could be famine, and more people lost to famine and poverty as a result of the shutdown than the actual virus itself. And that was some of the concern of economists looking into this. This is not Donald Trump, by the way. I'm not talking about Donald Trump. What I meant to say, because I know a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, was that the economists that were trying to communicate with him, who are not sociopaths, were talking about, in the remote, they were talking about the long-term consequences of shutting the world economy down to the poorest of the poor, and whether or not the G20 is going to make any adjustments, forgiving loans, delaying loans, etc. What are the far-reaching implications for the poorest of the poor when they don't have food or an income or resources of any type for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months? And how is that going to, what are the secondary risks of this virus? And the concern is, from a global perspective, that more people will die as a result of extreme poverty and famine due to the shutdown. Those are real legitimate concerns that have nothing to do with Trump's administration. So for that reason, you have people like Angela Merkel and different leaders of the EU, China, Africa, etc., trying to come up with real solutions long-term for the next, going forward for the next year or so, to make sure that we're not seeing consequences of COVID leading to death, financial collapse that has nothing to do with the actual infection. That was really an interesting remote view for me, because it made me see how this was a domino effect. And if you are a country or a nation or a population that's barely hanging on, the poorest of the poor, extreme poverty, extreme hunger, we could see some really, those areas and those nations being very heavily impacted by this shutdown. And also with that, with poverty and hunger comes disease, a breakdown of infrastructure in poorer nations, and the risk of further public health concerns. So that's the domino effect that the economists who are looking at the global situation are concerned is going to start emerging if the global economy doesn't become up and running fairly soon. All right, so those were the remotes of the last couple days. The last time I did a card reading, I saw that energy was holding on to a male as the next president, who came as a water sign or as the King of Cups, which is the Lover's card. It's a healer card. It can sometimes be astrologically associated with a water sign because it is water, but other readers don't do that. They don't look at astrological signs in the cards. They simply look at personality traits. But the one personality trait you can say about the King of Cups is that he's the great negotiator. He's the person that comes in to heal, to offer an elixir, to bring peace to a situation where there might be a disturbance or a disruption. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at Joe Biden's cards today to just see how he's doing. Sorry about the camera angle. I did not bring my tripod today. All right, so I have a couple questions that came in about people to look at for their futures. So we're just going to do the future of various different people politically today. And we'll do countries another day. All right, I want to call on white light protection for myself and my viewers as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys so that we can make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, for the planet, for the people we love, and even to help those we have strife with. And together we say, Amen. Let's go in. So I just want to look at Joe Kennedy first. Let's look at Joe Kennedy first because I've gotten 3 emails about Joe Kennedy. So we'll do him first. Where he is at right now, he's very involved in political work, very involved in helping. You can see the workers card, the 10 of Wands, carrying the heavy load, and the 6 of Swords, moving into smoother waters. The base card, the base of the matter, the summary is that he's definitely involved in helping get the nation stabilized, because that's the base, the summary. But you can see he's pushing through. The 11th house, I call the card that you have to push through in order to get to the 12th house. So for him, the 11th card is to carry the load. So there is a feeling like there's a lot of pressure on him right now because of his position, because of his past, because of who he is, to take on and shoulder perhaps more of the burden than the average person. There's an expectation there. He has a new beginning ahead of him, Joe Kennedy, and it looks bright. A nice 10 of Cups. It's like the building of a new family or a new life for him. He struggles with his own demons. He struggles with his own addictions or challenges as well. That's the 4th house. And then the 3rd house, what he marinates in, Archangel Michael. It also has to do with overcoming the devil or overcoming addiction. Sits in the 3rd house, action, reaction, with the 4th house being the devil card. So he is someone that's actively struggling with battling his own demons or battling something he sees as an unhealthy addiction or codependency, etc. Like a lot of people, a lot of members of the Kennedy family, he perceives of himself as a philanthropist. You can see the 6th house is moving in with the philanthropist card, 6 of Pentacles, to serve or care for those who cannot care for themselves. He was traveling quite a bit. You can see coming out of the Knight of Wands. And also here, international travel. So this is somebody who's very internationally active within his own community. I don't see him working directly with Donald Trump, but I do see him working actively with charities and organizations associated with his family to help people and it having a global impact. It's almost like he bypassed Trump, who sits in the 8th house. He and other activists, he and other philanthropists, and went directly to the communities through these philanthropy organizations and are helping people directly without the assistance of the government. There's a feeling that they can't rely on the government. The final outcome, 10th house, is the Queen of Swords, which is the ability to put the past behind him. Doesn't want to fight with people, doesn't want to have... This is not a fighter. Joe Kennedy is not a fighter. This is not someone who fights. This is, how can I fix the situation? How can I help? Clarification, Page of Cups, which is healing. The card of, it can sometimes be children, but the Page of Cups, over the issue is how he would help the country. So Page of Cups is a perception of himself offering healing. It's a healing energy that comes to him, but he's also got in the 7th house clarification of 5 of Swords. So I don't think Joe Kennedy Jr. is, he's not somebody who fights. He doesn't, this is not a warrior's energy. This is a healer. This is somebody who comes to heal and to help. He doesn't play the blame shame game. That's not the energy of this individual. This is a person who hit the ground running, understands that there's a lot expected from him, and used his existing contacts with charities in order to help people directly. And also including communicating with world leaders, because he had travel and the world leader cards around him. This is someone who could be very active, but not necessarily at this time or running for any major political parties. I want to just now check on Joe Biden, and then after that I'll do Andrew Cuomo for people, because people have asked me to do that. All right, what is going on with Joe Biden? And is he about to name? Looks like he's going to be naming his VP pick in the next week or two. I see Kamala Harris. I don't know if she's his VP pick or if she's just very active in his campaign, but she's right over him, Kamala Harris. She really is a smart woman. She can be president. If you go into Kamala Harris's energy, she could take control of this ship very well. He's offering, you can see the Six of Cups moving in, offering the girl flowers, Hanged Man moving. He has to move through, he has to move through the Hanged Man in order to get to the Six of Cups. So that means that he has to let go of promises or considerations of other people. There were other people he considered for VP position, and they got very close to getting it. But for whatever reason, he decided not to go that direction. And instead, he's right there ready to offer it to somebody else. Somebody who may have thought, perhaps Stacey Abrams thought she had a good chance and he chose not to go with her. Maybe he felt like it wasn't the right time for her to be in a position like VP, but something happens where it's surprising that certain people were on the list that he is going to turn down. Instead, we see his first house, the Queen of Swords. It's appearing as a female, possibly an air sign, but if it's not an air sign, Queen of Swords is older, wiser, often a woman who has gray hair or an aging woman, smart, in charge. She is not somebody who holds on to the past. So this is not a vindictive energy. It's not somebody who's selfish. The Queen of Swords is the card that has her back to the past. In plainer words, there's a decision to really cut cords with anything that has been in the past and to begin. It's a feeling like you have to begin everything all over again. When Biden comes in, it's as if it's a new nation. It's a new nation and the past is gone. The Queen of Swords comes in to tell us that the past is gone. She's a very strong candidate, whoever she is, so much so that she could become the president more than Biden. It's as if Biden hands it to her. What is above? There's a Four of Cups here. So he had a real reservation for a time about, he waited until the last minute to make his decision about who he was going to pick. And again, here it depicts a man, possibly a water sign male, as the next president. If it's not a water sign, then it's a healer, it's a communicator. I think of the King of Cups also as the great mediator, in the sense that he's always offering something to help. And then we can see him marching into victory in the next 6 months. Same thing we saw last time when we polled on the presidency. But because this is Joe Biden's cards, very likely that we could see Joe Biden as the next president. We can see here the King of Swords. This is a time for him which is about planning. It's a military card. It's somebody who's strategically moving forward, that strong military energy. He's not thinking in terms of being emotional right now. He's just thinking in terms of intellectually getting things organized for his position come the fall, being ready for the presidency. Contrast that with his rival, right, the 8th house, and that's a 7 of Cups. So while Biden is looking at his cabinet and making the most logical decisions, like a military person ready to go to war, being methodical, we can see the Trump card is the 7 of Cups, which is complete confusion, not knowing where to go, chaos. It's Trump that looks confused and disorganized. It's Trump's campaign that looks disorganized. It looks like it's not even one campaign. It's like when you go into the energy about Trump's campaign, there are people all over the place that all have ideas about what Trump should do, but it's not working cohesively with one statement, one goal, one idea about how the campaign should be run. The hopes and fears, he's worried about the I think he's very worried about the mental and emotional and financial stability of the nation. And then the final outcome is the 2 of Cups. This is somebody, Joe Biden is, that he is going to create a sacred contract between himself and the nation where whether you voted for him or not, whether you are a Republican or Democrat, he promises that he will respect you and he will fight for you. Similar to what we saw with Amy Klobuchar's campaign. It's a shame. He won't be able to work with Republicans as closely as he had hoped to. There's a 5 of Swords coming in over working with rivals. You know, for whatever reason, the Republican Party, those that are really strong supporters of Donald Trump, have chosen to really not only are they not backing Biden, but even when Biden made an attempt to reach across the aisle, when it becomes apparent that he will probably be the president, he's still facing hostility, rejection, etc. from the far right wing. So he's going to unfortunately have to go it alone and rebuild the country with a coalition of progressives as well as moderate Republicans. But I think he's going to have a next to impossible time working with the diehard Trump people. If things continue on their current trajectory, it's probably going to be Biden as president, and his VP appears to be an older female, possibly with gray hair, could be an air sign, and it's a no-nonsense woman who goes to work and puts the past behind her. But just before we go on, I just want to look at the future of Kamala Harris, because I just don't know why, but she is all over that campaign. So I just need to check what's going on with Kamala Harris. If we have time, and then we'll do Andrew Cuomo. What is going on with Kamala Harris? I really like her energy. She's really if she doesn't become the VP, I would be very surprised if he didn't give some type of very powerful position to her, because she's so strong. Archangel Michael coming in, and the 5 of Wands. You know, it's interesting when you go into the remote about Kamala Harris. She will reach across the aisle, but her ethics are such that she's not going to negotiate or compromise and go along with something that violates her basic ethics. She's going to have a real hard time with that, because you can see the 5 of Wands moving in the 11th house with the Page of Swords moving in, which can also be to cut off or to terminate messages by air. She's going to have battles. And she's going to refute. There are certain things, because of what her values are, that she simply will not do. This kind of reminds me of Rod Rosenstein, in the sense that there was a point where there were things he was willing to do with this administration and things that he simply would never do. And that's exactly what you see with Kamala Harris. She really is somebody who has a clear understanding of you don't break certain laws. Like she has a clear understanding of right and wrong. You can see the Nine of Cups. She gets her wish. Currently a feeling of entrapped, like there's very little that she can do in her current situation, even though she's a senator, she's not in a position of power she wants to be in order to change things. You can see a King of Cups, a water sign male or a healer is above her, and what is below her, a desire to move on from something. Hanged Man. And then the future is an offer, Ace of Cups coming into the 6th house. She's going to be world traveling. And she's going to be dealing with global concerns about, yeah. Oh, God, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if she took the VP position just because she's got cards. By August, things are going to be really intense for Kamala Harris by August. If she doesn't take the VP position, she's so strong in her cards with Joe Biden, that I would not be surprised if she was Attorney General or wound up on the Supreme Court. But she has a very strong future with this, with Joe Biden. All right, I want to just now check Andrew Cuomo to see about his future, and then we'll go ahead and close it. I'll try and just do about 30 minutes today. What is going on with Andrew Cuomo? Is he going to be the president someday? Is he going to stay in New York? He gets his wish. So part of what's going with Andrew Cuomo is he's very, very good at getting organized. He's very, very good at getting what he wants. You can see finances coming in, the Fool card. If you want something in life, you have to be willing to ask for it and know how to ask for it. And that seems to be what Andrew Cuomo is good at. There's death and transfer. He does not want the presidency. There's a Two of Swords right over it. He sees that as strife. Absolutely not, he says, because he's got his hands full in New York. It's like New York. It's New York and the rest of the world. It's almost as if New York operates as its own country because it does have so much tourism. It does have so much business overseas, etc. You can see the Ace of Cups. People were talking about it, but there's an Eight of Wands here, which is a strife card, August. I feel like he is so committed to, no, he doesn't want to be the president. Seven of Swords, fleeing the offer. Yeah. No, he's too loyal to New York, and rightly so. Yeah, Hermit card. He's where he needs to be, which is working in New York, but he's also interested in helping on the future campaign, and he may be able to do that. He may start speaking to certain groups or organizations along the East Coast, all the way up into Florida, helping with the Biden campaign, and also just talking about things that were implemented in New York to prepare for the coming wave. All right, one last thing I want to close with, and that is to check about the vaccine. People had said that we're not going to have a vaccine for COVID for a year. I think they are going to release a vaccine, and I think it's going to be ready by the fall because they've already started human trials. It's going to be the fastest time we ever released a vaccine, but I'm predicting sometime around September, August, September. Let's take a look when the vaccine's going to be ready. So basically they're giving the vaccine and then they're testing for antibodies after the patient gets injected. So say, for example, they give the injection, then they wait 3 to 5 days, and then they're going to check antibody levels to see if it worked, if there were any side effects. You can see the 11th house, the Four of Cups, there was a resistance there initially because for safety reasons, they wanted to slow things down. But you can see Four of Wands moved in. So I think the FDA, to some extent, has really been helpful in terms of making this go a lot faster. There's also communication with other experiments outside the United States. You can see the exchange of ideas and then a travel card here. So other people besides the United States are working on a vaccine, and there's a collaboration or exchange of ideas that involves working across the aisle, travel, exchange of ideas, and then victory. We're going to have a vaccine within 6 months. I know why, because I know I'm right, because the action reaction was a healing card. Action reaction, 6th house was 6 of Wands within 6 months. There is an economic concern about and also concern about, health. Not everybody necessarily having the best health response to a vaccine. I get why they're doing these trials, but the Wheel of Fortune comes in with a 9 of Wands. So I think that there was so much pressure to put this vaccine out so quickly that within, I'd say about 5 to 6 months, we're going to have some kind of vaccine be available. So we're now in late April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, around September, October, we'll probably, for the next wave, second wave, we will be seeing a vaccine. People wanted to know if I was going to get the vaccine. Well, if it's safe, sure. If they do humans trials that show that it's safe, then yeah, I probably will. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you haven't yet for the channel to support it. And if you're trying to get in for a tarot reading, I would love to give you a phone reading. Telemedicine now is the only medicine I'm practicing. So if you are trying to get in for a naturopathic appointment, you would just book for telemedicine, and then we do that via telemedicine. It's like Skype. All right, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Take care.